All right, the recorders are on.
Thank you for joining us for the East Aurora Village Board meeting for March 3rd, 2025. If you could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you could join me, please, for a moment of silence. We lost a town employee and a very sweet person, Cheryl Miller. She was a crossing guard. She was a police matron, over 20 years of service to the community. And you could have a moment of silence for Cheryl, please. Thank you. Can I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Lizickis.
Here.
Trustee Cameron. Here. Trustee Vijay. Here. Trustee Flynn.
Here.
Trustee Raby.
Here.
Trustee Shear.
Here.
Mayor Mercurio.
Present.
7 present, 0 absent.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the village board meeting for February 18th, 2025?
Motion.
Moved by Jeff, second.
Second.
Second by Molly. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I abstain. I get a motion to approve the approval of the payment of the abstract for March 3rd, 2025 for 2024-2025 fiscal year with a total of $163,222.16.
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second.
Second.
Second by Ernie. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Moving into our first speakers and communications. You'll have 2 opportunities to speak. If you have an issue, please raise your hand. When acknowledged, come on up and give us your name and address. We record it, so if you could put that into the microphone, that'd be great. Our arborist is here, right? Jeff Stoll?
Yep.
Jared? Right? Weber? Right? Did you want to say anything first before we get going? Does he not know? He's going to...
He knows. I think he's more to answer questions. Yes, Jeff?
What's that?
Was he here more to answer questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as the public, if they have any questions for us.
Okay. So you're going to hang out?
Statement prepared on it.
Okay, no, so if you're going to hang out, that's great. I thought...
More than happy to answer questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for being a resource. Appreciate it.
So you'll answer questions when the board asks you to answer questions, not necessarily any question that is asked.
Got it. Okay. Anyone from the public want to speak in the first speakers and communications?
My name's Holly Maciejewski. I live at 218 Center Street, East Aurora, New York. So I'm here about the trees again. And the first thing I want to say is I've been here 32 years. I absolutely love our village, love everything about it. And every time we come home from a trip or every time we drive into the village, we love it. And we all know we have something special here, and I think we should preserve it in every way possible. And I think if we don't, we're making a big mistake. One of the first things I wanted to bring up was the problem with going at speed, NYSEG, whoever's supposed to be letting people know they're coming to their house. They haven't seemed to been, it's documented that they haven't done it. Yet, in the last week, I got these at my address from going at speed. So they are able to get mailings out, and they know where they're going, so I think they could use one more stamp and let people know where they're coming. That's the first thing. Then the second thing, I'll give you copies of these, but this was February 19th on King Street. I happened to go down there looking at the trees. I guess I hope they had grown a little since the last time I went down. So anyway, what I did find were fiber optic cables thrown in the snowbank. And not knowing much about fiber optic cables, I started to look it up. And they're really dangerous. Any child could have pulled these. I've got photos for all of you. Any child could have pulled these. If you twist them, oh wait, I have it written down. You can't pinch, kink, or pull directly on them. This is if somebody's working on them, you have to protect your eyes and skin. Wear safety glasses, protective gloves. There's glass shards in there, and it causes serious injury. If you aspirate it, it can be lethal. So any one of the children in this village could actually have been killed last week by their irresponsibility. And I'm incensed about this, and I think we all should be. Because there's no reason, I feel like they're being irresponsible, totally, but this is above that. This is worse than our trees. Can you just imagine what could have happened? And like I said, if you get a second, just look up what's in fiber optic cables, and it made my hair curl. No, really, you know what I mean? It's like, it's unbelievable how dangerous they are. I wouldn't have ever known. So I have a copy of this for everybody. So that's the next thing I had to say about it. And I'd like to know what will be done about this, because one time is one time too many, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again, if it's happened before. Why wouldn't it? Obviously, they haven't been taught the proper way to do this. So, or don't care, whichever. I mean, we can pick whichever reason that we want. And that's basically everything that I have about them. So I'll give you all of these. Okay. Boy, I was so shaky this time.
Fine.
You are incensed. You are incensed.
Well, I mean,
I am.
You should be old hat at this by now.
Oh, gosh.
Shane, can you figure out what's going on with them leaving cables laying around, especially if they're dangerous?
Liz told me that
I only need one. I'm going to scan it and send it to everybody. We don't.
Oh, I mean, no.
somebody called the town
Okay.
about it.
We'd like to save trees.
And I went out and looked
Sorry,
at
give me
it.
just one
That's
sec,
okay.
would you?
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
All right, you're all set.
Sorry, okay. Oh, want these?
Sure. Thank you.
What was that, Shane?
Thanks, Alan.
Liz Cassidy told me that the town was notified about it. We were never notified, the DPW was never, I went out and looked, I didn't see anything at that time, but that was a day or so after the fact, so I don't know it much more than that.
And they were done for the day. So after, it was at 3:15 on February 19th.
Did you notify the town?
No, I called Luke something. I didn't know. I didn't
The
call
town
the town.
councilman?
And actually, no, I didn't call my town councilman.
Luke,
Luke is a
Was
town
he with
councilman.
NICEAG?
Wachowski?
I think the town,
Luke's a
Wachowski?
town councilman.
Luke Wachowski?
Yeah.
yes.
yeah.
He's on the town board.
town board.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about it until the next day
Right.
from the code enforcement officers.
Right.
And then I couldn't find anything, so I
And
didn't.
that's why I have photos and I
Yeah.
have them dated. And it's not that it's not your fault.
No,
They shouldn't
no.
have left
Right.
it there.
No, absolutely.
It's simple as that.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah, but can you reach out to Go NetSpeed and
Yep.
ask them what they're doing with leaving cables around, and if they intend to continue to do it, and if they're saying they're not dangerous, just get to the bottom of it, please. Thank you.
and I just want to say one more thing about that. The same day, I drove up here because I saw them working, so right in front of, town hall. And I saw what I think is the proper way. And actually, I did take a picture of that they were supposed to do. It was all wound up, and it was hanging on a pole, like on a hook, which again, I assume that's the proper way.
All right, thank you, Holly. Who else? Hi.
And I'm Sally Mitchell, and I live at 206 Center Street in East Aurora. And I have a letter that I sent to you around 5:15, so that means you probably don't have it yet. If anybody wants a copy to read while I'm reading, because my voice is so little, you might not be able to hear, but I have a copy if you
They'll
want
all get it
It's-
electronically.
yeah, okay, great. All right, so it's hopefully quickly. I haven't been coming to other meetings, so I hope I'm not repeating all kinds of things you've already dealt with. But, so I am addressing it to respectfully all of you. And I'm asking, as a village resident, to, in furtherance of your, all the concerns you've already raised at previous meetings and today, that we discuss the tree cutting efforts performed by O'Connell Electric on behalf of Go NetSpeed. And I just say that I choose to live in the village of East Aurora because of the abundance of well-maintained, beautiful trees that line the streets of the entire village. Like many village residents, I treasure the village's renowned tree canopy. Our genuinely leafy village attracts thousands of village visitors, and notably, numerous film crews each year. Our restaurants and small businesses thrive because our village is widely celebrated for its aesthetic beauty, and an abundance of hundreds of graceful, mature trees significantly contributes to the well-publicized attractiveness of the village. Anyway, so I continue to say that I respectfully request the village to immediately direct O'Connell Electric to pause its tree cutting endeavors on behalf of GoNet Speed until such time as the board and other village committees and government entities have had a sufficient time and opportunity to appoint a board-approved overseer, preferably a tree expert or arborist of the board's choosing, to monitor all aspects of the tree cutting project. That would be an overseer that the board would choose, but that GoNet Speed would pay for. And that overseer would report directly to the board on a weekly basis. Also, if, I don't know if this has been brought up previously, but that asks that a public hearing be called so members of the public can come in and talk to you, and also O'Connell and GoNet Speed about these issues before things get too far. And then the end of my letter, I just explained some of the, the GoNet Speed's corporate status, and that it's owned by a great big private equity firm known as Oak Hill Capital Partners. And of course, they all want to make money, but not at our expense. So, thank you very much.
Well, we have attempted a pause, right?
We got a
Chris,
stop work order.
We had a stop work order. We've been, every meeting we've had, we've been dealing with this issue of trees
Yeah,
and the frustration so these are all things that we've been mulling over for quite a while.
yeah, right. Again, I'm stepping into this a bit late, but if, I don't know whether there's, I don't know if there's steps to be gone through for a public hearing, that need to be accomplished, prior to calling a public hearing, but people maybe need to be brought in, and if enough people complain, then they need to, do something about the way
We've heard
this
the
is
complaints.
approached.
There've been a lot of them. I mean, it's
Yeah, many
tough
complaints.
just going into Tops to do your shopping because, it's frustrating. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I
just,
kind of question my choice right now.
yeah, it's just, it's just as many voices are heard, at least, something will continue to be done. But thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sally. Who else?
Colleen O'Connor. I own a house at 50 Elmwood in the village and also at 839 Mill Road in the town. And I have witnessed the butcher job on King Street, and they're now on my street on Elmwood, and it isn't any better. Does the town attorney, is he able to work on this at all in order to get an arborist that can assist? I was told that they said they need a 10-foot box around the cable, and that was an OSHA thing, and that it's actually not an OSHA thing. Do you know anything about that?
The 10 by 10 by 15, Shane, where's that coming from?
Those are the dimensions that NICEAG instructed O'Connell to trim by. It's a approximate standard across the country. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but it's a standard of that type of work.
But it was claimed to be an OSHA standard.
I've never
I don't
heard
know.
that, so
But-
I can't speak to that.
Is there anyone that can find out if that box can be?
I
Smaller?
did speak to NYSEG,
Yeah.
and their, I don't know what his title is exactly, but basically their PR person for municipalities. And maybe our guest arborist can enlighten me further on this, but it was explained to me that OSHA set the requirement of those dimensions because of the power lines are up high, the communication lines are down lower, and the people that work on the communication lines aren't as savvy with high voltage as a trained electrician or high-power electricians. And due to the safety factor of someone not familiar with it possibly dying, that they set these parameters, and OSHA set that standard is the way it was explained to me. But in speaking to more people, I was told, and I don't have any confirmation or verification of this, that there is a rural versus urban box. One's a 10, 10, 15, the other one's a little less, 6, 6, 8, or something along those lines.
So the smaller one is, I'm assuming, for the village?
Well, for urban areas, and I was explained to me that way. I never got
Yeah.
verification from NYSEG on that, and I was told by the NYSEG PR man that that isn't a thing. I don't know if that's him towing the company line or whether it's an actual fact, and I would like to ask you if you've heard of anything different.
So that clearance distance seems to change per specs. The minimum I've ever heard of that being is 6 feet. Most generally, it's 10 feet. The reason they have that minimum.
I'm really sorry. I need you to come up to the microphone, yeah.
Thanks.
'Cause I-
Thanks, Jared. We
You can-
record everything. Are you
That's fine.
finished, Colleen?
Okay,
No, I
so.
had another question, but now that.
Yeah, and I mean, this has been a lot of,
You can go back, yeah.
there's been a ton of questions about this stuff, and I've answered a lot of questions. I have a lot of customers in the village of East Aurora who've been directly affected by the pruning. I'm obviously working with the village to try to get the best results and kind of meet in the middle on everything. That distance is put into place from a safety standpoint. As an arborist that's not hired by the utility, like if I was hired to work at your house, my minimum approach distance to those lines is 10 feet. I cannot come within that 10 feet. If I do, I have to contact the utility and have them come in and make sure that service is safe. The reason being is there's a potential for arcing. There's a potential for electrocution when you're within that range. Is that 10 feet a little bit bigger than it potentially has to be? It depends on what the load is on those lines. So how much electricity is going through those lines is determined by the minimum approach distance chart. Excuse me, I've got a little something going on. So the minimum approach distance is depending on how much voltage is going through those lines. So once you get down into the smaller lines, more of the communication lines, there is still some voltage going through those. It's a very small amount. Once you get into the larger lines, there's a lot of voltage going through there. If a tree is in contact with that tree, especially in the springtime when the sapwood there's a lot of moisture in the sapwood, it can become conductive. So just because the tree's laying on that line up, 30, 50 feet, wherever those lines lay, somebody comes up and touches that tree, there is a risk of electrocution in that instance. So the reason why they're getting these clearances on these lines is because of the potential for electrocution. This has went back and forth a lot, but the reason why they're clearing the communication lines to the same distance as the electrical lines is exactly what Steve said. The people that are working within those parameters are not certified line clearance or installers of the electrical utility. So they have to follow essentially the same guidelines that me as an arborist working within those trees is. So there has to be a 10-foot clearance from either the lines or whatever has the potential to be conductive within proximity of those lines. So I mean, as much as I would love to see no trees ever cut that are within close proximity to power lines, I understand that there has to be some sort of happy medium within there somewhere because of the risk of electrocution. And whether you believe there is a high risk or not, like I have went up to trees before and went to go do a removal. You put your spikes into the base of the tree and you can actually feel the conductivity. And I've had to go back and have NICEAG come in and clear the lines so that you can actually come within proximity of that. There's tons of trees in the village of East Aurora that when we're working around them, we're seeing where they're actually burnt and things are laying on lines because they haven't been cleared. So, like, to a certain degree, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place on this because I want to see the trees not be touched and I want to see the village look exactly like it is. But my other flip side of that is I don't want to see something happen to somebody that's literally walking down the street or a small child that goes up and grabs a tree. So I think that this is my personal opinion. The idea is to get as little clearance as what is allowable, essentially, on these lines while they're working within the proximity of these trees. So that 10-foot distance, I don't know exactly where that comes from. I've looked pretty intently to try to find exactly who is writing that code and who is writing that specs. But I do know that when you pull out a line voltage chart and you actually look at the minimum approach distance, once you get into those higher, the higher voltages in those lines, there is a good buffer that has to be maintained and established within that range. So I can't answer that question exactly where those specs come from, but I do know that they're based off of line voltage charts and how much that electricity can jump from a line to something that is conductive, which could potentially be a tree that has moisture in it.
So a couple more clarifications that I have. So you're saying it's not just if it rains and the tree is damp on the exterior, you're saying the sap and everything in the fluids in the tree are what help attract it and conduct.
Correct.
And then I've had questions from people about the timing of this cutting. Number one, is that season appropriate? Also, to follow up on that, a little different thing is, on that 10-10-15, if you cut a branch exactly the 10 feet, but that the proper cutback crotch so that branch or doesn't get diseased, that would ultimately kill the whole tree. Sometimes you got to go a little further than that to properly, could you elaborate on that?
Yes. So there's, Nancy, Jeff, and I walked around and looked at a bunch of different trees, and we were trying to pull up pictures of them on Google, and Jeff had some pictures, and some of these major limbs that they have taken off of these trees, the easiest way to describe it without getting too technical is they almost look like a broom. So all of the foliage is at the end of the branches, and when the utility company's coming through and cutting the end off, you end up with this giant stub. There's no branches left on it, or it's not something that's a third of the size of the diameter or larger, which is what specifications are that you're supposed to cut back to. So in those instances, in most instances, you're better off taking that tree back to back to the trunk on the tree instead of leaving this big giant piece sticking off the tree that has no foliage on it. Trees don't heal, they compartmentalize. So wherever there's a wound, they have to grow over. If they have no energy feeding the end of that where it's cut off because there's no food source, which would be the leaves, they're not going to compartmentalize and heal over properly. So when they're taking these big limbs back to the trunks, and I can't speak for every single cut because I have not watched every single part of this process, but if there is a limb that's coming off and they have to take the foliage off because it is within that 10-foot distance, and there's just a stubbed piece sticking off, and I mean, that piece could be 20 feet long on some of these trees. They're having to take them back to the trunk of the tree, which is ultimately the best for the tree in that situation. Like I said, I can't speak to every single cut that was made, but
Jared, since you have the mic, can you, I know you just said that you and Jeff have been around looking at trees. In your professional opinion, can you explain to the board what your feelings are towards the trimming that has taken place and what you've seen?
I mean, I think it's unfortunate that so much is having to be taken because it hasn't been done in the past. I believe it's almost 30 years since they've come through. And as far as regulations go, they're supposed to be clearing these lines every at least 5 to 10 years. My understanding is it's 5 to 6, but I do know there's allowability for 10 years in some certain circumstances. So the fact that it wasn't done for so long, 5 years, you're going to have a branch that's, maybe you'll have a 4 to 5 inch diameter branch, and that's a lot of growth in 5 years. They're having to take major limbs off of these trees because it hasn't been pruned and it hasn't been done. So it's very difficult for me to speak to this 100% and be like, oh yeah, what they're doing is perfect. Like, it's great. That's what they should be doing. Like, I can't go back 30 years and say you have to follow these 5-year pruning specs. And this is one of those situations where it's almost like you have to go backwards to go forwards. Things need to get back into place. You have to have the clearances from a safety standpoint. And unfortunately, these huge limbs are having to be taken off these trees because they've been allowed to grow up into the power lines by the utility provider. So that, it's unfortunate that this is having to happen, but there has to be some measure of safety for the people that are walking down the roads when you have something that's conductive in the power lines. So it's not an ideal situation. As far as the pruning that's being done, we have had a few trees here and there where the arborist from O'Connell has been very, very accommodating to work with certain trees that have been brought to my attention, and I really feel as though they need to be preserved. For example, there's one on Oakwood, almost to Elmwood, and it's a big pine that has a huge horizontal limb coming out on it. The limb looks like it was decapitated. It looks like the top was cut off of it, which it was. But the other alternative was to cut that limb completely off. They worked back and forth with us on that one, on a couple other things, to where they did allow certain things to stay for the survivability of the tree. Obviously, you can't do that in every single situation, but they have been working with us to try to be as accommodating as possible with what they have to work with. And like I said, it's unfortunate because these guys that are out there, I've talked to them when I'm out looking at the trees, like, they don't want to be taking this much off either, but that's the specifications they have to follow because it hasn't been done in the past, if that makes sense.
But could they go to like the 6-foot box they have in New York City? Could that still be safe
Don't only answer.
or not?
Wait,
It's the power line.
So I can't speak to that because that's the power company's regulations.
Right.
And I mean, and you're talking 4 feet.
Right.
In most situations, 4 feet can make a difference moving forward when we're talking like smaller pruning. Right now, when you're taking major limbs off, like 4 feet is not, in all reality, it's not going to make that much of a difference. I think it's very important to put something into place to where moving forward when this maintenance pruning is being done, that we're taking as minimal as possible off of these. And if there is certain situations where that 6-foot box could be accommodated, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
But I don't have I don't have the specifications on that. I don't have the experience with electricity and what the voltage is in these lines and what they have to follow, so I can't really speak to that part of it.
People can't ask questions from their seat. If you have questions, you have to come to the microphone. The board has to let you speak, and then they'll direct Jared to answer when they want the question answered.
And thanks for your information. So is anybody exploring that possibility of the 6-foot rather than the 10-foot when it's possible? Like,
We
Like-
did speak to that. We've sent a request to NICEAG with several requests on it. We haven't heard back yet. I don't believe they're going to do as minimal as 6 feet. Just like Jared was talking, they need, if electricity from the top power lines could jump 8 feet, they're not going to put the line to 8 feet. They're probably going to give it a little more buffer just to make sure, because it's not
okay,
exact. So
okay. Well, one other question was, so some of these trees are so butchered, it's very possible they're going to die. Whose responsibility is it then to remove them?
that would be
Is that the
villages.
homeowner?
No, if it's a street tree between the sidewalk and the curb
It's
in the right of way.
It's the village.
It's the village. And if it's on the homeowner's property, then it's the homeowner that is going to have to, even if it's
those-
caused by their, what they did.
Generally speaking, if it's in the right of way, it's going to be nearer to the power lines. If it's out of the right of way and it's on the homeowner's property, it's probably not going to be cut extensively. Which one?
I saw a lot there.
We also
But I think that was in the right
What
of
were you
way,
saying, Steve?
I believe.
I think it's closer to her house. I don't know. She knows.
We did discuss that if there were trees that were more than a certain percentage of canopy removed, then we thought that they wouldn't survive, that we would take them down in the
Okay.
village.
They contact Jeff, and.
And we make an assessment of those questionable trees.
And then O'Connell will take the whole tree.
Yeah, we changed the way they did it so that we had a say in it versus them just doing whatever they thought.
I have a question if I can come up. My name's Holly Maciejewski. I live at 218 Center Street. So my first question is for you, or I guess I talked to everybody. Anyway, if we want this 6-foot box, and I think we're so soft with NICEAG, why do we say, well, we'll ask them and they'll let us know? No, we want it. We should be pushing this. It's our village, our trees. And the same thing about this. Oh, can you call GoNet? I think they should be fined. Call them. No, their feet should be held to the fire. This is not okay. And that's what I think. And I don't know why we don't do that as a village. That's what I have to say.
All right. Who else?
Can I just kind of pose
Sure.
a question? I'm sure what NICEAG is doing is because of OSHA. If they don't follow the code, they're going to get fined. So that's primarily why they want to make sure that, I'm sure for the safety of the workers also. Can anybody talk with OSHA? From my experience, OSHA, you can talk with them, and then there can be some variances to the rules, the regulations. That may solve the issue. If OSHA says, no, it's 10 feet, and nothing can be done, that's fine. If OSHA says, okay, there's some flexibility in it, and then the contractors can say, okay, I don't have this hanging over my head because OSHA's made a decision that, they can move forward.
Just so everybody, it sounds like a couple of people are kind of late to the game here. Our attorney did draft a letter to the Public Safety, or Public
Service.
Public service.
Commission, and they put a pause on the project for 3 or 4 days. And everybody, the state and NICEAG reviewed what was being done, and they came to the conclusion that they were doing everything properly and that they were even going above and beyond what they had to by working with us. So just so everybody's aware of,
Did that involve OSHA, though?
it did not, but New York State, who oversees the utility
Well, I think
work
OSHA
in this.
I think OSHA's federal.
It is, but the state has laws covering that also, so.
Okay, but I think there would be some flexibility if you could talk with OSHA. Just a thought.
Name and address?
Tom Weir, 839 Mill Road in the town, but I'm with Colleen.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we also contacted the governor's office as well and requested action from the state governor's office. We've contacted all the parties that we could think of that could possibly help us with the situation. And it's part of the frustration that we feel as a board. We can't get the answers we want because of the regulations and what they have down in code. But I think what the arborist, you enlightened me to a lot. I'd never thought about the connectivity end of it, as it makes sense. Still doesn't make me feel better about what's happening to the trees, but the fact that they haven't trimmed the trees.
Hold on, you have to get.
I'm just waiting till he's, okay.
I'll be done in a sec, but I mean, the fact that they haven't been regularly pruning the trees as they should have, and that this is a reason why, in large part, why they've taken out such large limbs, that gets me upset too. They just, all right, so I've.
It doesn't make me feel any better about the tree on the wires at your house.
No, and then they don't touch the trees, the wires, and I've said this repeatedly, meeting after meeting, but the right-of-way behind my house on Fillmore supplies all the phone and the power to Main Street. The Molly's Little Charlie's Diner side of Main Street.
Yeah.
And there are box elders, like literally on the wires like this, and I've asked them for years to remove them because they're a hazard.
Right.
They haven't done it, but yet they go out.
Well, that was
All
my
right.
point, is you can't even ride a bike down Mill Road because the trees are in the shoulder. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets taken down. I even called about that. I called the county about that, and they go, "Lady, we can't cut down every tree that's in the shoulder." And I'm thinking, okay. Kind of dangerous.
They can't fill a pothole.
But thanks for hearing us out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Shane, can you check with OSHA and just see if that gives us any leverage, please? Sure.
Somebody else,
Thanks for that idea,
this is
Tom.
another aside too, that, and I understand that O'Connell has an arborist, but someone I know in my social circle owns an electrical company of some sort, and he claims that they don't have an arborist, and I told him that was not the case, but he insists that they don't have an arborist, but do they have an arborist? O'Connell?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether he's a certified arborist. I believe he is.
For NICEAG?
For O'Connell Electric. I have a friend who's in the electrical business and has done business with O'Connell, and he insists that they don't have an arborist. And I said, that's not what we've been told. We have been told they have an actual arborist on the staff. And so I promised him I would ask that question. Because he's a village resident as well, so.
This is probably a comment for another time, but we really got to get a plan in place or something for next time, so this doesn't happen next time. So, I know that's a discussion.
Next time they're.
Well, we need to,
Well, so that, yeah, 30
We gotta
years
get their
from now,
their
Another
future-
board's not sitting here,
right,
20
their
meetings
future
in.
maintenance plan,
Well-
and make them adhere to
There
it.
will be
For
no,
five,
Well,
for
they've got the plan
five-year
out.
plan.
They're-
no
reclamation.
trees planted on our power lines.
30
Yeah,
years.
But
That's
what
the end
happens
of
if
that.
ISIC comes in after these guys and wants to cut more?
Well,
Right.
NICEAG does have our request of 6 or 8 points to address that we've requested of them. I think going forward that we do not plant any trees under the power line like was done on King Street and other places throughout the village. If we stop doing that, I don't think in 30 years there'll be any trees to really trim.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Jeff, make sure that's in the DPW calendar to follow up with NICEAG and insist every 5 years, they come in and do their pruning like Jared discussed.
I mean, NICEAG does say they're doing that now. This year is starting a 5-year plan of trimming. I think that maybe has finally caught up with them, or the state or the federal government's pushing them to do that, or they're just having enough issues that it's costing them more money to fix lines than to trim trees. So hopefully that is the
Right, and
case.
let's make sure that we insist they do it, so that they can't let it slide.
My
Sally?
parents have lived in my house since 1965. Last week in O'Connell was the first person that ever touched that tree in front of my house. Wow. Since 1965. Tell you that.
enjoy it since 1965?
Well, you should see the wires now. They did fix mine, so. But only because it was in the right of way.
Sally?
Can I, yeah, Sally Mitchell, 206 Center. I, in just trying to, get myself up to speed on this, I was looking at the minutes of meetings. I was trying to look at what was written in the advertiser.
No.
There's all kinds of stuff, but it's not all sort of one unified document. Obviously, this isn't a ongoing thing, and all kinds of people are working on it, but somehow maybe there needs to be a centrally sort of recorded, documented thing, because I was thinking of doing a FOIL request, but it would probably be a nightmare, just trying to find out. what was stuff
Sally, there
going
is an
on.
update on our village website of everything we have done
There is.
from the beginning to up to date.
Okay,
So,
and I'll-
just so
I'll
you
look
know
there.
that.
And all the
Yeah.
meetings are recorded as well.
Right.
You can sit down at home, that's why the advertiser isn't here.
Yeah.
They just listen to it on, it's Facebook, right?
It's YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
So- Yeah, so you can just listen to it on, there's a YouTube
Just sit
channel.
and listen to the, yeah.
Yeah, you can get the whole meeting, you don't have to
Right,
come here, you
right.
can
I
listen
know.
to it at your leisure.
Oh, I love paper. But that's one thing. I don't know whether we're at the point where where things are so frustrating that the village could, ask for in order to show cause to make everybody stop. I don't know, you're at that point, but it's something that could be done. The other thing is, maybe who is this arborist, this mysterious arborist with O'Connell? Maybe that's somebody, is it just some guy who knows about trees, or is it a real arborist? So that's just my question. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Nancy?
Hello, Mike O'Connor, and this puts us one over the limit for O'Connors for a village board meeting. Apologize for that. I didn't know she was going to be here. I would have come at another meeting. I'm at 779 East Fillmore Avenue, representing the Heart of Music Festival, the replacement for Music Fest. I joined the board of Heart of Music about a month ago. Spent the last 4 weeks or so coming up to speed where things were as far as safety, the permit, board meetings, concerns, and whatnot. More recently, I've met with a couple of board members, have set up additional meetings, and will continue to do that, so that we as a board are fully positioned to address concerns across the board, right, and the community, to make this event as safe and successful as possible. I wanted to provide a couple of updates, a comment first, that I didn't know Chris before he called me and asked. I met him one time. I shouldn't say I didn't know him, but didn't know him very well. Since then, been super impressed with the level of detail that he's, and the amount of time and folks that he's been engaging with in order to address concerns of the board, address concerns of the community, and continue to make this thing successful. The one thing in my conversations with board members so far, and folks who have a stake so far, is safety is the number one concern. And I think the great thing about that is that we are in goal alignment as it relates to safety being the primary concern. And at the same time, scaling this thing down a little bit and reining it in a little bit and putting some additional things in place to meet our goals of safety. I know that the security plan was presented to Pat, reviewed. I don't know if the rest of the board members or trustees, board members, is board members.
Either way.
If the board has had a chance to review it. I know there was a subsequent meeting with Pat and Chris. A couple of, I think, good ideas to address that have come out of those discussions is the addition of screening, dark screening for a number of the venues, right? Wall and Wines, for instance. Let me look at my notes real quick so I can be specific to those areas. Changes this good posture. A black wind screening to Wally's, Main and Hamlin, and Mister's. And what we're trying to do, obviously, is limit we're calling it the tailgating aspect, right? Just people showing up, sitting in the streets and, sitting on a cooler and looking, not necessarily even paying, or maybe they did pay for a wristband, but they're just sitting out and essentially loitering. So our goal is definitely to minimize that opportunity. So that screening, we think, will help, as well as our code of conduct. There's going to be more specifics on the code of conduct that when you buy your ticket, you have to check through code of conduct, which includes not loitering, going to a venue, and patronizing the venue. And there'll be some additional things within that code of conduct. I'll be happy to answer questions. I don't know if I'll be able to. If not, we'll get an answer to you after I speak to Chris if there's additional questions on that. There's also the addition of 10 additional security guards that Heart of Music is paying for after the 5 o'clock shift, so that we can increase that presence. We are looking to scale this down a little bit. Obviously, I think you've probably heard Barbell isn't participating. There won't be any event down at the Fireman's Field as well. So back to the point, we are in goal alignment and ready to address. I'll continue to meet with each of you. This is a good format, right, to kind of talk about, I think, macro points, if you will, and then delve down. But I think what's really good is just one-on-one discussion so that we can make sure that we're specifically addressing each board member or any stakeholders' questions or concerns. Let me see if I've left anything out. Give me 1 second. Oh, parking. And we think this can kind of help alleviate some of the congestion in certain areas. We've added around 1,000 off-street parking spots through the rink. We secured the rink parking deal, the old Fisher-Price, there's obviously a lot of parking spots there. The middle school, as well as Parkdale. Parking there as well. We are in discussions with Larry at the VFW as well of doing some parking there and some additional food, outlying food locations to spread things out a little bit. That's what I have. Let me just make sure I covered everything. I believe I have. So any questions that I might be able to answer since Chris was here last time a couple weeks ago from anyone?
Just so the parking at one end, this end, then the bus route would probably fall down Girard and do a loop down Main.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly. And then with the possibility of the VFW doing like a food thing, we may add them as a spot to and from one of the other bars or maybe the rink or what have you. There's also going to be a delineation. I didn't mention, there's going to be a delineation this year between Mister's and Main and Hamlin, where those are two, set where it was one sort of conjoined area. If you saw that last year, there's going to be a clearer delineation there, and I think a little better security posture.
How do you accomplish
Leave the road open still?
I think the plan is to close the road, if I'm not mistaken, Pat. I don't know if you can address that. I think in the plan it was.
Close the road?
Wait a second, there wasn't a definite plan given, it was hypothetical things that were there were hypothetical things spoken in the meeting that they were talking about, and they were
Which
just
meeting?
saying, in the meeting with the department heads.
Okay, gotcha.
About the situation.
Yep.
And they were talking about that, but it wasn't like something that was vetted, because I know the fire department did have concerns about putting a fence in the middle of the road, dividing both of those, if it's not something easily collapsible to get an emergency vehicle down there. So we have to finish going through these items.
Sure.
So once the you guys have your application prepared, we really need to get another meeting with the full application.
sure. Yeah,
Because
yeah,
we
I
have
was just kind
nothing
of
that's
writing an update.
definite. And
Yeah.
I know he keeps talking about getting aerial shots with, like drones and things like that. We don't need that, like, just put a drawing on paper and we can go from there, so we can get this application and be working off one definite document instead of a lot of hypotheticals.
So let me, two questions I think were there. How would they close off? Last year, I think Main and Hamlin was a single venue with Hamlin Road or Hamlin Street was cut off. So there's already a barrier there in that street. So I think what they're planning on doing is just creating separation via additional fencing, right, with the black, black stuff, so there's no, you can't, loiter in between, let's say, and still see the band, so try to limit that. I believe that's the plan. So the road was already cut off last year.
Right.
And it would remain cut off, it's just that there'd be a delineation between the two venues.
In our
Did you ask
meeting,
that question? Yeah, sorry.
in our meeting last week, and we're still in the infant stages of just trying to make this more doable and more safe.
Yeah.
I expressed a desire to reduce significantly what you called tailgating, the people standing in the street on Riley Street, the congregating of people on Hamlin. In the eyes of the festival organizers and the people that enjoy music, it's for charity and it's for music. And what we find as the night goes on, most of the people in those common streets are not there for the music.
Yeah.
They're there with a 12-pack from Sunoco,
They're hanging.
and they're drinking, and there's nothing we can do about it due to our local laws.
Yeah.
So I recommended to Chris to look into just what you said, starting to narrow down the venue space, put more fencing up so that each venue has its own fenced-in area, and we can police that with security and police officers. And it's less attractive to be out in the middle of the road
Right.
with a 12-pack
Right.
because you can't see through the fence, you can't hear very good,
Right.
and we're keeping people contained in the fence the best we can.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think that was heard, loud and clear, so hence the delineation. I know I've talked to Ben, at Wall and Lines about, hey, what about your beer truck? Put the beer truck up against the fence as well so that nobody can see a band, or makes the sight lines, minimizes the sight lines, right? Where instead of having it off to the side. So taking these measures to make sure that, and also, publicly and via social media and publicly, really stressing and via, whether it's working with Rick to write, when he writes articles about the upcoming music fest, that's a major concern. So when people read it, maybe that'll give them pause, and say, hey, last year they're really frowning on that. You know what I mean? If I was a village resident, and I kind of did that, and I read about it, and it was in the code of conduct, and I heard through whatever social media or just social conversation that they're trying to minimize that, then I think we can have an impact on it through multi-headed approach.
Does your screen go down Riley too?
Does what?
The screen, the black screening you talked about, would that go down Riley?
No, I don't think the plan was to have it at the rink itself.
Talking like the Riley's parking lot, that.
Riley Street parking lot. I don't think so. He didn't send me that was one of the locations. I didn't get that, no. Any other questions at this point? And Maureen, I'll take your comment back, and we'll make sure we're obviously putting this in a finite to meet the requirements of the permit. Good? Anything? Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Mark.
Thanks.
Nancy? Back to trees.
Nancy Smith, 195 Sycamore. Thank you for continuing to pay attention to the challenges that we're experiencing due to NYSEG's tree trimming requirements. I have just two things tonight. Each week I'm decreasing the number. That's a good trend. The first is that what I consider to be excessive size of the trim box that NYSEG is requiring for the project. The second issue is the village's municipal utility franchise agreement. So first, I really think it's the only thing that we can impact that's significant is the trim box size. And, you know, at first, from NYSEG's own documents, they were saying it was from ANSI. And we found out that wasn't true. It's not actually written in ANSI standards. And now they are saying that it's OSHA. And it's not. That's a federal guideline. That's a safety standard. So how could that be a federal guideline if there are other municipalities that are here in New York State that are using that 66610? That just doesn't make any sense at all. So I have a handout for you guys that give a couple examples of that. So the one is a really fancy diagram from New York City that shows that that's what they do, and the other is an article about Batavia where they had a reduced trim box size. Today I was able to speak this afternoon with a representative from National Grid. So that's a competitor of NYSEG providing energy services. And I know, Steve, I think you said that Steve Nopsey said,
Yes.
oh, you can't have 2 trim boxes. Well, their competitor, National Grid, offers 2 trim boxes right here, right in Buffalo. One is appropriate for power lines that are in rural areas, like along a farm field, and their smaller trim box is appropriate for yards. He described working in partnerships with municipalities across Western New York. He believes their excellent relationships stem from returning more frequently for trim work. He said people are used to seeing them do their work, and less work needs to be done because they haven't been gone for 30 years, as Jared described. So it is that approach that allows for a smaller trim box coming back more frequently. And I think that you might save money by having a large trim box area and not coming back as often, but in the long run, your reputation in the community, I think, is also incredibly important. I just was also concerned myself to dig in a little more on details about NYSEG. It sounds like, you know, New York State Electric and Gas, but it's a wholly owned subsidiary of Avangrid, which in turn is controlled by Iberdrola Group, which is a business that's considered a Spanish energy giant. I'm just wondering if the damage to our village by refusing to utilize a smaller trim box appropriate for a village setting is a decision that's being driven by the desire to enhance corporate profits for shareholders and business leaders. As described in their own document, NYSEG, as we've discussed tonight, didn't provide the required maintenance and service for over 10 years, service our village was owed. So increasing the time between providing maintenance causes more damage to our green infrastructure while increasing profits for this parent company. As Holly has said, it's just not okay. So I hope we can push for a smaller trim box. It has to be safe if that's what they're doing in other communities, and I hope we'll find a way to move in that direction. I have a meeting with Kathy Hochul's office the next week, so I'll be able to push it at that level as well. I don't think we should give up. Second thing I wanted to chat about was the municipal utility franchise agreement. That is a negotiated contract between a municipality and an electric service provider that grants that utility the right to serve customers in the municipality's jurisdiction. The contract often specifies the period of service, and many times there's a fee that's remitted back to the municipality. I know, it's cool. So without this contract, NYSEG can't perform work in our village. Let's see. They often include specific agreements required for tree trimming, so it's important for us to understand what the details are in this agreement they're supposed to have, well, they have with us. It's just, we don't have it, we can't find it, and I had a meeting with Chris Nosby, along with Sue Russell, where we spoke with Chris on February 2nd, so a month ago, and we asked Chris for a copy of this document. I believe, Steve, you have specifically asked?
Yeah, Chris Trapp, did you make any progress on obtaining that?
No, I have an associate looking to try to hunt it down.
Did you request it from them?
From
NYSEG.
From NYSEG?
I will check to make sure he did.
Okay, because that was a couple meetings ago. That was a month ago.
I understand that, well, the gentleman I spoke with at National Grid this afternoon, I asked him what he would do, how we could get a copy of it. And he said, well, if I wanted a copy of it, I'd just call our right-of-way office, and they have them there for every city and every village, and I just would ask for it. They have it. So they have it, and they're not giving it to us. You can FOIL it from the Public Service Commission, but that's just going to be a waste of time. I think we should insist they give it to us. And in fact, you guys, tonight, this very night, or 2 weeks from now, could pass a resolution insisting that they give it to us. So that's an action you could take that I would advocate. So thank you very much. And thank you guys for asking Jarrett to be here tonight, because I've learned something every time I talk to Jarrett, so it was really helpful to have him here this evening. So thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
What do you think about sourcing that? What's that? Just thanks. By the way, I was doing that to Holly so that you could come up.
Oh, yeah. All right. Hi, guys. Jesse Griffiths, chairman of the tree board. Just 2 quick points to make. One, I looked up Stan Puffer's name on the ISA website. That's the Society for Arboriculture. He is actually a certified arborist.
Good.
And he is on, he's here.
I'll let my friend know.
Yeah, he spent quite a bit of time outside Jen Brazil's house.
One of the
this
many
week on
questions
Pico.
I get.
Yep, but he is. He
Good.
is certified.
Good to know.
He's been there. The other point I wanted to make was that, let's see, I've been on the tree board for 15 or 16 years, and I've been the chairperson since Nancy Johnson resigned about 10 years ago. We don't plant big trees under power lines at all. The notion that we would need to learn that because of this project, not quite right. We don't plant big trees under lines. There's a right tree for the right place slogan that the Arbor Day Foundation uses, and we subscribe to it because of stuff like this. So I just wanted to clear that up. All right, thanks.
Who else?
Hello. Holly Maciejewski, 218 Center Street. And I just have a couple questions about what's just happened here. So I guess I should know this from civics class, but I don't. What happens with this information? So we see that NYSEG has saved money for 30 years by not doing their required work. Now they're pushing this expense because they're able to GoNet and trying to get more out of this so they don't have to trim in 5 more years. I mean, it's sort of obvious, okay? So what happens with this information? Like, do you all take it and talk about it and then take an action, like with NYSEG? Or what are the next steps? What happens? Because, I mean, you all have to listen to us, and I don't know how this works. What happens next? That's my question. What does each person on the board do? What does the board do as a board? What do you do as our administrator to, with all of our concerns and with all of the new information that's always being brought to you? That's my question.
Thanks, Holly.
Should I stay up here? Okay.
Shane, do you want to talk about kind of our way forward?
I think sending our request to NYSEG and seeing what response they have to our requests about what kind of trimming they do, what dimensions they do, all of that stuff. Talking to OSHA, seeing if we can find out this contract with the village between NYSEG. It's kind of a David and Goliath type situation.
So does it fall right to you? Do you have to do, is that?
No,
I will do some of it, Chris will do some of it, and it's kind of a team sport here, so.
I'll be reaching back out to Hokel's office, right? Shane will pursue the things we've been talking about. Chris is going to look into the lease.
Actually, I'm already doing the email.
He's already working on the email.
What's the length of those leases typically, Chris?
They're all different, is the way it was explained to me when I spoke to them. Some are 80 years old, some are more recent, and some of them are written in perpetuity and others aren't.
As you can see, a lot of the trustees are also doing their own research to see if we can uncover some sort of silver bullet to neutralize this, right?
Like Nancy certainly has a silver bullet, you know?
Chris,
Maybe.
is that revising that agreement or moving to a different service provider? Is that something that's
Well,
within the purview?
moving to another service provider, you mean from NYSEG? That's like having two cable companies coming in and redoing it. They're not gonna have an overbill, it's too expensive. And they're not just gonna walk away. Without seeing what the agreement it says, I can't tell you. It could very well be 80 years old. I'm guessing since it hasn't been found anywhere in the village yet, it's probably 80
That old,
years old. Apparently there is a utility intervention unit with Department of State, and that's what I'm dealing with right now. Ultimately, the question is, if you want to litigate, how much money do you want to spend, and do you want to litigate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it's not like me calling Verizon and switching to T-Mobile, but
Nope.
there has to be
No.
some sort of process
It's pretty,
in place. that-
pretty unique. You should see the road. Look at the map. It's blotches. There's even like one part of Buffalo that's surrounded by one company, and then the other company has this. It's pretty strange. And the only reason I know that is I sell a product that is based with this new electrification program, and we're looking at this map, and it's broken up in a very not orderly way.
Yeah.
But I think, Chris, it's not about litigation, it's about knowing what we're dealing with and knowing we can't make a decision based on half information. So if we don't know what's in that agreement, we can't even raise our voice.
Yeah, we have no leverage if we don't know, I mean, the specifics, I guess. Well, hopefully we can get our hands on it. Okay.
Who else wants to speak? All right, that closes our first speakers and communications. Moving on, no public hearings, official considerations. Can I get a motion to approve a Hamlin Park temporary use permit for Aurora Players for theatrical productions on various dates in the summer of 2025?
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second by Grace. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I get a motion to set a public hearing on April 7, 2025 to review the village 2025-26 tentative budget.
Motion.
Moved by Jeff, second.
Second.
Second by Steve. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I get a motion to approve the budget adjustments for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second.
Second.
Second by Ernie. Further discussion?
Can we get an explanation of the budget adjustments?
So the moving of the contingency to the police overtime is to cover additional overtime expenses having to do with us being down officers because people are out on medical, and for training, and for the Stop DWI program that pays us after the fact in subsequent years. The traffic control,
May I interrupt? Does that mean we get some of that back?
we do get some of that back, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But it won't come this fiscal year necessarily for that. The traffic, I'm sorry.
Was that done, is that done in a credit type of situation? So what we,
So we send them bills for what we've used, and it usually takes 2 years to get that money back. And it's it comes and it kind of rotates in. So we actually have 3 years almost due to us. One is overdue. One is what's due this year, and then there's one that wouldn't be due to us till next year, kind of in their pattern. I know that Pat is working on trying to get that in to us sooner. He's had multiple conversations recently, trying to get them to pay us more frequently or doing it quarterly.
Who's they? by the way? Sorry.
This is,
So STOP DWI is a subsidiary. They're funded by the governor's traffic safety office, but it's run by the county, Central Police Services. And they've changed things over the past 3 years drastically. They used to call us on a Wednesday and highlight an event happening in our area and say, you have X amount of overtime hours to allow a police officer to work a dedicated shift of seeking out drivable intoxicated operators. Recently, they've come out and said, basically, they have limited funds and work as much as you can and take as many intoxicated drivers as you can off the road. Our police clerk went down about a year ago and met with the coordinator of the program, who at that time did an oversight and a review of everything, and they spoke about reimbursements. And at that point, he spoke about a desire to be able to start reimbursing the municipalities on a quarterly basis. I took the reins and did what we had been begun to do, and we've been heavily working these details, and they've been proving to be positive results. However, we're now owed a lot of money, and I'm asking for the money, and they're telling me by the end of the month we should have a check. But the communication has been broken down. I will be honest about that. And I'm starting to climb the ladder a little bit higher each day to get to somebody that's going to tell me when we're going to get paid, how much we're going to get paid. And until then, we're not really going to be as aggressive with the details. But don't get me wrong, our guys that are working regular shifts are going to be just as aggressive.
So this was additional to our standard patrol?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Above and beyond our normal for increase, whether it be Bills games or any kind of,
So when they did the roadblock on 28, that's a conjunction thing, right? The troopers and you and sheriffs? Or
correct.
whomever?
Those are organized by larger entities than us that say, hey, we're going to be in your town, so we'd like you to join us type
Gotcha.
thing.
Okay.
the traffic control was taking the money from there to go to police department supplies. Those are like police department office supplies. The village administration maintenance contracts, it was to go for additional legal notices that needed to be sent out. We send out more legal notices than we have previously. The fiscal agent fees being moved to the auditor services contract. We had additional assistance with the auditors this year when we moved to the new software. And then the police department equipment going to police department, training, travel, and dues. They have been doing additional training, and we needed that to fund the expense for that. So they were going to take it out of their equipment line. Thank you.
All right, still looking at the budget adjustments, moved by Kristen, second by Ernie. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved? I get a motion to approve the budget modification for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
Motion?
Moved by Jeff, second.
I'll second.
Second by Molly. Further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Approved. I get a motion to set a public hearing to consider an amendment to the special use permit Hop and Hemp Tea, Inc., doing business as Buffalo Kind, 640 Main Street, to allow a delivery option through the brick and mortar dispensary.
Excuse me? May I have a moment?
Sure. Come on up.
That's what speakers, communications, right?
Agreed.
Hello, everybody. Tyler Kraus here on behalf of Buffalo Kind. My father, who we all know
Drew Kraus.
pretty well, I think, at this point. So we are here today to talk about our amendment request for a delivery upon our special use permit. In our application process for our special use permit, there were 3 times where delivery was mentioned in the application process. To my understanding, there was a mistake with the actual permit that we were provided, and delivery was not included on that permit.
There was a mistake that, I'll let you speak.
Wherever the permit was written and how it was written, delivery is not included in.
So how you
operation.
filled it out?
No.
Or,
Let me jump in.
Sure.
yeah, that it was
So
unclear.
we submitted our request for special use permit. Inside of that request, we stated our intent is to do delivery. We stated that one of our parking spots will have our delivery vehicle in there. And then when we met live in one of our, I think it was.
Board meetings.
Board meetings, 11/4.
Not from the
My
minutes,
father stated our intent is to do delivery. When we received the special use permit, it said no delivery. So we quickly challenged it. Liz, what's going on? We provided a letter to Liz and to the team, which I assume you guys received, and we're assuming it was a mistake that we were not granted that.
And then
OCM grants you the ability as a micro business to be a delivery service. And East Roy, you have in your document that you can have a delivery service. And quite frankly, we've been asked by the public, hey, I don't drive, is there going to be a delivery service? So we're just here, assuming that was a mistake.
The special use permit, is that a unique dispensary permit, or is that our standard permit? I mean, they say you gave.
So-
Here's part of the problem, and what wasn't mentioned was that according to the zoning code, deliveries are only permitted in manufacturing zones. They're not within a manufacturing zone. Therefore, what they really need to also do is seek a variance through the zoning board of appeals, and part of what I had submitted a long time ago about the change of the code dealing with cannabis, which would have dealt with this issue and deliveries and everything, the board said that they wanted to leave it for the New York State law. Well, the problem is New York State law doesn't deal with local zoning. And therefore, it is a local issue under your zoning code. Your zoning code only allows for deliveries under manufacturing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rich.
Was
Okay.
that not changed? That zoning?
What would not change?
What was it not changed? So I was under the impression
No.
from Liz that was no longer in practice.
Well, there's another concern I would have.
Never heard of
Chris.
that, so.
Another concern I would have, the town did not opt in. So if they deliver to the town, does that now, is the point of sale at their location and then they take it and deliver it, or is the point of sale when you deliver it?
It's the concept of being able to deliver from that
That spot.
facility, which is the way we would argue, because otherwise they could deliver anywhere in the
That's my
United
thought,
States
yeah.
outside of that, which makes it then meaningless.
Right.
Right.
And there's a cost of delivery, right? We don't see that as, it's more of providing proper service to the community. That's our intent.
So I guess what's the answer? So
I don't know.
now didn't
Option,
make
you
it
have,
legal,
well,
Can they not,
that's between them and the town.
can they
From
not
our,
deliver it into the town? That's-
well, right now, they can't deliver anywhere
Right.
because they don't have the permit to deliver there. So you'll have 2 options. A, zoning board of appeals and getting a variance from the delivery requirements or being only in a manufacturing zone. Option B, change the code. Option B is up to the board. Tell me what you want.
This is just to set a public hearing though, right, on this matter?
Yeah, but your problem will be,
What?
that's ultimately for amending the special use permit, but there's still either A, going to need a variance, or B, a change in the code. They can run simultaneously, that's not the issue.
Yeah, we're not
Which
trying to
would
get-
you,
we're just
which would
asking
you
for
like?
permission.
Wait a minute, what kind of variance is that for zoning, though?
A variance from the
Well,
code?
no, I mean area or use.
They're in Village Center.
Because it sounds sort of like a use variance, and you're not going to get it for that.
Well, the standards are different.
Well, that's what I
Standards
mean.
are much more difficult to get a use variance.
Right.
And it really has nothing to do with the land.
Well, that's what I mean. Right.
You want me to resend you the code provision?
No, I know, I think we should, yeah.
Do we, as a board, do we set the public hearing and then?
You just don't make a decision, but
Within
at
the
least
next-
gets the ball rolling for them.
Right, well,
I just, you know,
it opens
all
it
I
up to discussion, and then we can do as we wish or find out more in the meantime until,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd want to talk to Jen and Liz.
Well, you can't talk, the problem with talking to Jen is now you put her in a tough spot because
Right.
as the chair of the ZBA, now you've got the
Yep.
village board getting involved with their decisions, which you
Yep.
really can't do.
Nope. No, thank you.
We can set a hearing and always say no.
Tell you what,
Or-
Yeah,
you
the least
you
talk
can
about
certainly go through with this to get the ball rolling in terms of saying the public hearing, but at the same token, just so everyone has it again, I will resend all the materials out, and then you can decide how you want to. And in the meantime, Rich and I will talk about the various concepts.
But we set the
Okay.
public hearing for April 7 to get the clock ticking so they wait less.
Right, you can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's all we're asking for, right?
All right.
You know, to move forward. We've been here enough. We're trying to do the right thing for the community.
All right? Board good with that? All right. So we don't have a motion yet, correct? What's that?
There's no motion.
Right. So does someone want to set a public hearing for April 7 to consider an amendment to the special use Hop and Hump, DBA Buffalo County 640 Main, to allow a delivery option through the brick and mortar dispensary?
Motion?
Moved by Jeff, second.
Second.
Second by Steve. Further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Public hearing is set for 4/7.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Moving on to new business. Fire department side by side. Aaron and Maureen, you want to inform us
So,
on that?
The fire department has been pursuing the acquisition of an off-road utility vehicle with a track option for many years, as you know. This has been on our capital improvement list. These vehicles are the cheapest and most reliable option to travel in feet of snow. These have proven themselves to be necessary in Western New York communities, especially in the last few years when we've seen emergency services unable to respond to incidents for hours and patients of medical emergencies not being accessed for days due to snow volume. I reported to the board about a month ago that we had the potential to receive a very generous, significant donation toward the purchase and outfit of one of these vehicles. I'm happy to report that this donation did come. Initially, I reported that we would be asking the village to cover around $17,000 to assist in completing the project. Due to additional fundraising efforts, I'm now asking the village cover about $12,400 of this unit. If approved, we expect to have our membership trained and this vehicle fully in service around May 1st. This vehicle will be incredible use during significant weather events and during the village's many special events where access to patients is limited. It will have the ability to transport 6 people inside the cab and have the ability to transport a sick or injured person laying down in the back of the unit with an EMT. In the winter, tracks will be added to the units, ensuring safer and more reliable response. Any questions?
First of all, nice job on getting the donation. That's fantastic. Fantastic work, Aaron.
The total cost of the project, just so you know, is a little over $61,000.
So the request is for contingency funds to do this. Unfortunately, we don't have contingency funds available to do this. So I'm kind of looking through the budget, and I don't have the answer for you right now on where we can get that funds from. I'm hoping to have something for the next board meeting that I can say we can take it from here, or if we will have to go outside of the budget and use savings for. So I don't really have a resolution for you, but I do need to know if you're willing to do that, and I should be spending the time looking for that money.
What is the 12,400 paying for?
It's finishing the rest of the project, so I mean, we've got donations towards it. It's just getting added into the lump sum. So this unit, like I said, is a rather large unit. It has the ability to transport multiple people. This pays for the tracks, pays for the lighting, pays for the radio installs. There's an EMS skid on the back of it that we would keep on 24/7, as well as a pull-behind fire suppression trailer.
And so how much are the tracks themselves?
The tracks themselves are $6,700. Those have already been paid for by the donor.
Oh,
At the
those
donor,
were?
yeah, at the donor's
I was gonna
request.
say, can we wait until,
Yeah,
is there any
like
benefit
some
waiting till
accessories
October
later?
or something to buy the
No,
track?
that was at the donor's request. That was already purchased.
Yeah, and we have to follow certain
already
purchasing
purchased.
policies. So like, some of the things they've purchased were done because of the way that you have to follow the purchasing policy for us. I don't know that it will be a huge deal. I just have to find it, and I don't have contingency to pull it from as an easy answer, so.
All 48, the rest of the 48,000 or 49,000 was all raised?
Yeah, I have 48,000 right now. I'm trying very hard to get another $1,000. That's how I got to that number. So we'll have $49,000 donated.
I mean, I'm for it. If we need
Yeah.
this to make the whole thing whole and usable,
Yeah, I mean, we
it's
don't,
just where are we gonna get it from?
I don't need a resolution at the moment, but I just want to make sure you guys are on board so that when I search for it and look for
Is
it, that
anybody
we're gonna.
against her looking for the other 12,000?
No. Yeah,
Okay,
let's
yeah.
look.
I was told I'm not allowed to have an opinion, so.
Yeah.
I'll stop looking at you.
It's simply to prevent you from getting into a
I know.
conflict of interest ethical issue.
I've been before. Okay, so I'll go forward with that.
So that's A
Yep.
and B, fire department manual. Same thing.
B? Okay, sorry, you ready for the second part? Okay, so put simply, like any emergency services entity, fire department policies and procedures need to be up to date. Our policies have not been overhauled since 2007. The chief has delegated the responsibility to ensure that his or her department is operating adequately and report issues to the board, which is why in February 2024, shortly after becoming chief, I brought this to the attention of the board, that I would be requesting funds this year to assist in overhauling the fire department policies. As you know, the village is the authority having jurisdiction over all of emergency services. It is the village's responsibility to ensure that police, fire, and EMS are operating sufficiently. Our current SOPs are not adequate for today's standards, and I believe that this holds us back as a department and puts an unnecessary liability on the village if someone were to get hurt or an incident would be mismanaged. A reasonable question is, how did we get here? Several of our members spend over 100 hours a month working at the fire station. Remembering that we are 100% volunteer, that's no small task. It's easy to pass the buck for the next person. Unfortunately, these hours are only increasing. Call volume is increasing, volunteers are decreasing. Both are nationwide trends. We ask a lot of our members, administrative issues are often put at the bottom of the to-do list. Another nationwide trend that is prevalent in our department is, although we do not have the number of members we did decades ago, the quality of membership that we have is second to none. We currently have members who are working tirelessly to secure a department's future and get things where they need to be. We must capitalize on this. The fact that we have volunteers willing to take the time to work on this is incredible. It's understandable that volunteers want to take a step back in the summer and around the holidays. During these times, it's tough to get administrative work done, and our members typically limit themselves to operational items only, like calls, training, and maintenance to support calls. I'm certain that their desire to fix our policies will burn out come mid-May. It is my strong recommendation that the board approve these funds. It's human nature to want structure and organization. Competent policy manual is essential to help the EFD buck the trend of the faltering fire service and secure our future as a competent professional volunteer fire department. So I'm asking, as you guys saw, to approve $4,800 for our purchase of a policy manual.
And what do the members have to do exactly that you're afraid is gonna burn out? Once they get busy in the summer.
once we get busy in the summer. I mean, we're running.
But I mean, what do they have to do for this?
Oh, what they do is,
sorry, yeah.
so similar, like, if you recall, I think it was 2 years ago, Chief Krieger was asking for lexical for their policy manual. It's similar to that. We have an attorney that will work with us through the process, because there's no, we're not just buying a blanket manual. It does still require a lot of our membership's time to outfit this manual and make it specific to our department. It's not like a one-size-fits-all manual. As much as there will be policies in there that are generic that will get us up to legal standards to operate in the state, there is still specific items within.
You can't just grab Kenmore's or Lancaster's or whatever. There's some boilerplate stuff and some custom stuff.
Absolutely.
So for this, I looked at the budget. There is no funds available in the fire department budget to do this. We also don't have any money in contingency to do this. I did speak with Chris Trapp about it, and Chris Trapp said that he can actually do the manual under his retainer. So that is an option.
Was this a request for this year's budget and we just didn't put it in, or?
It was talked about on February 10th last year. It was put in there.
And it wasn't put in?
It wasn't put in, no. Part of this also supports our bylaws. What got a lot of this going in addition to that is our bylaws are being overhauled, which I really don't want to speak too much about that just yet, because our membership isn't privy to all of this and we have yet to vote on it. But the changes that we're proposing are truly historic to the way that the fire service will operate in East Aurora, for all amazing reasons.
And that's included in this?
No, so the bylaws are more specific to the East Aurora Volunteer Fire Department, Inc., which is the social aspect of the fire department. So the fire department has already paid for that without village funds. We used our donation funds to pay for the bylaws.
And the 4,800 would go to?
Policies and best practices, which is the policies based off of how you operate at incidents.
And is that the boilerplate stuff, or is that still unique?
A little bit of both, boilerplate and specific operational policies for our department.
And that goes to the attorney that's going to write this for you?
Yes.
Thoughts, Chris? Have you done stuff like this before?
I represent a number of fire companies around Western New York. I have done their bylaws. I've done their policies.
What about having Chris do it?
We can sit and talk about it, yeah. I don't have an issue with that. I'd like to know more about, what we can do. I've never had an in-person conversation with Chris to know if this is something that,
Yeah, you had talked about it. I had suggested after this meeting. You said you weren't available after this meeting. You gave me a couple other dates. I just figured we'd chat afterwards.
Yeah, we can chat
Pick a
about that.
date.
We have a crew of people that is working on this together.
That's normal
That's
for
why I
me.
want to have
I've done that with
more people present.
I've done that with other fire companies. Usually a group of 3 or 4.
Okay.
That's normal.
But your concern is getting it done now, not waiting another year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, not waiting more time. It's certainly reasonable to think that our membership that's spending every day, hours a day at the station is going to say, hey, we had members that wanted to come here tonight for this meeting, and they put plain and simple, I'm at the fire station every other night this week, my spouse will kill me.
If I do another
night.
on my night off.
So,
Yeah. Is this something that you can do before May?
Well, does it matter?
It depends
He
on
was
what
talking that
nature
was gonna.
and how much they've done versus not done.
Yeah. No, I mean, Aaron.
Can I meet with them and can we get started? Yes. How long will it take? I haven't seen the document yet. It's impossible for me to gauge how long it's going to take.
we're looking to completely overhaul them and start from scratch because they are so outdated.
Yeah. Certain things I have to believe will survive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
You said you did them in 2007.
Yep.
Okay, that's not 1967 where I would expect a major overhaul. There certainly will be changes because laws have changed over that time.
Yeah.
Requirements for EMS, requirements for training all those things have changed. I just gave a presentation this past October in Rhinebeck on EMS services and the changes, so I'm familiar with them.
Okay.
Bob?
I was just gonna say for right now, why don't you look for the 12.4 that we need for that? Have these guys talk and then see what comes of that, and if we have to go look for the 4,800 or what we wanna do. But for them to talk first.
I mean, if we could keep it in your retainer and if.
Yeah, trust me, I'm not enjoying that comment.
Hey.
But if we can
It is what it is.
But if you could stretch, it doesn't necessarily have to be done by May. It's been how many years? So if you could do a little every month, maybe by.
I look at it, I don't have
that
any
type of
interest
thing.
or desire to drag the thing out.
Sure.
But
Well, the
you're
longer it's
asking me
dragged
to
out,
have it
remember
done
that
by
it's-
May, and I don't know
that's-
what it.
no, I'm not.
what it
That is a
looks like.
significant
I
amount
can't
more
tell
of
you.
our members' time. There's a price
May's
tag on
kind
that.
of-
Please don't forget
right.
that.
I mean, that's right.
Oh,
The
I'm-
longer we drag this out, the more we're bringing our membership down so that we're not doing other things.
Here, Aaron.
So that is why, I know it's a lot of money, but in all reality, we just changed how much on budget adjustments because of an accounting oversight that we could have come up with elsewhere.
An accounting oversight was not the case.
Yeah, that's not what I
Wait,
heard.
what was that?
There was not an
Not right
accounting
now.
oversight.
Please.
No, it's not public comment.
All right, so everybody agrees, Chris is gonna meet with Aaron.
Yep.
Figure out what they can get done, and Maureen is gonna look for the 12.4 to outfit the UTV.
Yep.
UTV?
Yep.
All right. Anything else on that from the board? Except Grace? All right. No old business. Second, speakers and communications. Anybody want to speak on anything? Raise your hand.
Holly Maciejewski, not about the trees. When I was listening to him just now, I remembered at the last meeting when the gentleman from Music Fest was presenting, how he wanted to do things, and the money that they earned from that. The people that are on the board as part of the Music Fest, they're able to request something. So now that Mr. O'Connor is on their board with Music Fest, maybe he could request money for the fire department. Just a thought.
Thanks, Alan. Anyone else? All right, speakers and communications is closed. Department head report. Pat?
It's not too busy of a time of year over there with winter going on. I will say our new officer that started earlier in the month is progressing quite well. The officers are working a little bit more shift overtime, as we do have still a couple officers out due to a couple different reasons that I could share in private, but not a whole lot going on outside of that. I do want to thank Jeff's guys from the DPW. We've kind of got an interior facelift going on. Just some rooms getting painted by some laborers that when it's not snowy out and the place is looking a little bit newer for 1908 building. So we're appreciative of the work that they've been able to do for us on the days when the DPW isn't as busy. And that's about all I have.
Thanks, Pat. Jeff?
Yes, things are starting to ramp up with the warmer weather coming. Roads, potholes. I have crews out every day when we can with weather, fixing potholes. We've had couple water leaks, 3 or 4 water leaks in the past month that the guys have fixed. Every Monday I'm still meeting, talking with Stan, letting Steve know where they are.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Other than that, that's all I have.
What's going on
Park? I'm actually been talking with John about that.
Jeff mentioned that you asked if we get investors by today, and I thank Jeff by saying, no, probably not by today. But I did pass that along.
John,
Mike, please.
Please.
Just so we have it recorded.
Yes. John Sundquist with Barton and Judas, Village Designated Engineer. And, yeah, so Jeff had me take a look at Park Place where there's beyond pothole issues. And so we are going to prepare 2 estimates for that, for basically a cheaper repair versus a more complete rebuild. And I know that it's an emergency type of situation because it looks like there's no sub basin. It was just repaved 2 years ago, like you said. Now
Yep.
half of it is really gone. So my transportation folks are looking into it now, and I talked to them today, and they should have an estimate of the cheaper version by midweek and the more rebuild at later in the week.
But there's never been like a sub road like was done on Oakwood where they go down and.
I'm
leave
just
it
going
out.
by what Jeff said on that. So
Yeah, it was just built as a cow path, they call it. It's just clay underneath that blacktop. There's no stone,
yeah,
nothing.
but for some reason, like half of it is really bad. The other half
Right.
is better. So
Right.
we don't know what the situation is.
So you get under there.
Yeah.
So over the years, we've just scraped and repaved,
Yep, just a mill and fill.
mill and fill.
So yeah, Jonathan Walzak, he's the transportation guy. I told him to talk to you directly. I gave me your number. So, but as I've said before, when he hired us, I'm the local guy. I'm going to stay in everybody's case because I live here, and I know you guys. And you guys are going to give me shit if I don't. Sorry.
Should have let him keep speaking from back in the back.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So that's this week. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
I got a question. So when things like this happen, like I didn't get a notification about it at all. There's a road close. So how do we find out about this?
Where's the village board's code red?
Yeah. How don't
I was never
we don't get
informed about
any
the
of-
train wreck, and then a couple other things that happened, and I'm like, thanks. But it's
But
a
when the
thing.
community
No, we
comes
don't
to
know
us
about it. How do we
asking us
address it?
questions,
If a
we have no
citizen,
idea.
when a resident walks up to you in tops and goes, oh, what about this? And you go, oh, yeah. It's not pleasant. So I'm a little
Yeah.
disturbed about some of that stuff, too.
Maureen, you want to
I mean, that road really wasn't completely closed at any one time except when they were doing the
Yeah,
repairs
but it's
for
still a
couple
major
hours.
issue, right? It got
Sure.
paved 2 years ago, and now it's
Yeah.
completely destroyed, and none of us knew about it until right now, or someone else told us about it. So like a little bit more information on things that happen that we might have the community coming and asking us
That's
questions.
probably on
Great.
me. I should probably notify you guys sooner, but I'm still learning. I'm sorry. We'll work
No, it's
harder at
older.
that.
It's older than your tenure.
Okay.
It's an ongoing thing.
It's ongoing.
But yeah, that's, more emails better than fewer.
Yeah.
Just because Jeff was on top of it so well and taking care of it so well, it didn't seem to be that big of an
This
issue
has nothing to do with
me,
like just
but,
this
yeah.
specific incident. It's just
No, it's not
It's a
just-
combination of a lot of things that we don't get informed about and then get blindsided by.
It leads to some awkward situations when you're out and about and somebody's,
Exactly.
what about, and I'm like, don't really know about that. I never heard. I mean, I didn't know about the road closure on Park Place until I was driving by it just now, before the meeting.
Just more communication.
And I
Great.
kind of wondered, how come that's been, why is there a barrier there? I didn't know.
So Shane, going forward, you could just make sure everyone's looped in on everything. So that nobody feels left out.
Yes, sir.
Right, yeah. Look, I read my spam folder, so.
So Jeff, I know I asked you about Pine,
With,
the county, and the fact that it looks like the surface of the moon.
yeah, so I think it was Friday. I called them Friday morning because I drove through it and I'm like, oh my goodness. So I called them and they had a crew out within the afternoon filling potholes. So
So they put cold patch in.
they put cold patch in. It'll probably
Do you think
last,
that'll hold until April when they
No.
start the project?
oh, maybe
Right now.
3
Until
days.
Next week, yeah.
It's gone.
But they can't hot patch it in this
No,
weather, right?
no,
So what's the alternative? Is that it?
that's it. Cold patch in the winter.
We'll slow traffic down on Pine for a little while.
So bad.
There's people drive on it at all. That would be the worst I've ever seen a road.
Yep.
Thursday.
Nasty.
So I'll keep calling them.
Is there a point where we have to close the road if it gets too bad?
I don't think so. I mean, isn't there like a law where if somebody calls in a pothole twice,
Yeah,
their
if
fees?
the county's been notified by Jeff, any damage to a vehicle, they may have a claim towards the county to get that repaired.
I'm sure some alignments are off.
It's like,
Probably knocked some fillings out.
yeah.
I'll call them every couple days.
To just keep cold patching it and
But
cobble along.
yeah, that's what we do. I mean, I've pretty much when the weather's like this, I have a crew out every day. They might fill the same pothole 10 times, but
Can't put gravel in there or anything, that's no better.
better.
And people don't seem to understand, that's another question that comes up. It's not our road. It's like, same thing with Maple.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how many times you tell them, what do you, I pay all these taxes, how come, you know, they just don't get it. You know, we can't do it, we can't fill those potholes.
Erie County is responsible for that road.
Erie
They
County,
let
we
it
should
get
put
to
signs
this
up, you know, Erie County Road, you know, or something like that.
We've had a longer,
That in Marilla.
Oh, they did? Oh, that's right.
Yes.
And it worked, right? Didn't they respond to it?
Oh, yes. More ways than one.
Anyone have anything else for Jeff? Thanks, Jeff. Rich? Shane?
Nothing further.
Maureen?
I'm working on the budget. We're getting more done with the accounting software. We're going to be going live with the water billing next Monday. So bills should be out by the end of the week, all from the new system. The new cash or like credit card system is not going to be up and running in time for that. So that will phase in. So I'll have more updates on that. That's kind of where we are.
Anyone have anything for Maureen?
What percentage do we pay on that credit card?
We don't.
Is that a big hit?
Percentage do we pay on the credit card?
Yeah, your vendor fee. Merchant fee,
Oh, we don't pay anything on that.
because we're a public entity?
It's, yeah, they just, I mean, there's a fee.
Yeah.
Like a 3%.
3%,
extra.
that's what I'm
Yeah, but
referring to.
we aren't paying it.
that gets passed along as somebody who pays her water bill by credit card.
Oh, you,
Yeah.
so we increase it by 3%?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I'm still winning because otherwise I forget to pay it and I pay the late fee, so.
I'm
saving money.
Will that new system have the ability to do an automatic payment for people if they
So,
give a credit card?
There is not an option for an automatic ACH, but there's going to be an option where you can go online and do a one-time bank draft from your bank. So that will be an option,
Okay.
but not an automatic withdrawal, because then we're going to have the liability of having bank account information for our residents, and
Okay.
that's not
No, that's
something I
fine.
think we'd like to do.
No.
I just dropped it off.
All right. Grace, what do you have?
It was just the increased communication would be great. And then I also went to the town comp plan public meeting on last Wednesday?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, it was once.
Kristen was there too. Very good turnout, tons of participation. It was really nice. They had a nice board set up for community input, and it was great.
Did they have the survey results yet? Or is it still
They were
ongoing?
still collecting survey
Still
results.
collecting?
Yep.
When does that end, do you know?
I do not. I think they extended it though.
Oh, I gotcha.
I don't remember.
Anything else?
That's it.
Molly?
I'm good.
Jeff?
Oh, good, thank you.
Ernie?
Steve and I had our Parks Committee meeting, what was it, last week?
Yep.
And it was, successful. That's about it.
Kristen?
Yeah, just echo what Grace said. The town comprehensive plan meeting was awesome. It was super interactive. Definitely recommend, there's going to be another one at some point, so we definitely recommend going. I think they were all kinds of boards with questions and Post-its to write your answers on, and they got through multiple stacks of Post-it notes, and by the end of the night, there was almost nowhere you could put your Post-it and have it not cover up somebody else's, so. But it's really good. It inspires a lot of really good thoughts, so.
Steve?
As Ernie said, we had the Parks meeting, and one thing we did discuss was there is a former resident of East Aurora that is willing to donate a plaque to Cicero Hamlin to put a monument describing the history of the park and how it came to be. And I'd like to put this on the agenda for the next meeting as a public hearing, I guess, and to move forward with it. And the donations for the plaque, we'd have to come up either with a boulder or some sort of granite piece to mount the plaque on. The Parks Committee, everybody there thought it was a good idea. The plaque is a $5,000 plaque, bronze, and they wrote a few paragraphs. We could present that to the next meeting, and I called some quarries, actually, in Vermont, New Hampshire. A boulder's hard to find. I'm telling you, a big boulder. So we got to look at details further, but I wanted to mention that and let you guys know I'd like to move forward with it.
Great.
That's
Love
all.
it. Jeff, you got any boulders laying around?
I'm looking.
Nice job.
So you want, at the next meeting, you want us to set a public hearing for this?
I think we should.
Yeah. We want
If that, whatever would move it along, whatever the proper procedure is to move it forward.
I don't
Do you need
think
a
you
public
need to
hearing for
have a
this?
public hearing.
No?
I-
Okay.
Is this?
So just a
the same
discussion,
person?
do we just put it up for,
Is this the same one that you guys sent me the email about?
Yeah.
Because I asked questions and she said, I want to know the answer before I give you the answer to the questions. And the questions were just basic, like size and things like that. So I can try to forward you guys the email. I thought maybe I copied you on it, but.
I don't know if I saw it. so If you
I-
could do that.
Yeah, because I just need that in order for us to discuss it.
Sure.
But if you have all that data, that's perfect. That's what I've been waiting for.
They're approximates. I mean, the plaque is pretty sized out. The rest of it, though, is not.
Okay.
And there may need a footer. Is that an issue? I didn't think so. Thank you. If it's a big boulder, we may not even need a footer. Sit on the ground and the ground goes up and down, so does the boulder.
No, you should be able to do it at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Cool, great. I wasn't here at the last meeting. I was away. Thanks to Ernie for running the show.
Thank you for letting me have the opportunity.
He runs a tight ship.
He runs a nice meeting. Yeah. I think it was like 45 minutes, even with tree questions.
We spent 45 minutes just on tree questions. All right, so can I get a motion to go into executive session regarding some legal updates? 8:54. What? Hi. Before we do that, Aaron, our fire chief?
I just kind of want to, speak from the heart a little bit here to the board a little bit, and I appreciate your considerations for everything with the fire department. I know there's times that it seems like we ask for a lot, but representing our membership, I feel like, is something that I need to do. And I want to remind everyone that, you guys are asked to do a lot. You oversee a lot. You have all sorts of different organizations pulling you in different directions. We have a 100% volunteer fire department that responds to every tragic incident in our community, sees unspeakable things, is up at all hours of the night, handling things from the smallest to the most severe incidents. I send updates out to the board as much as possible. I'm sure you've seen that they've been less lately. What I'm asking for is just a little bit more back and forth. The crews going to these calls need to know that they have support. And obviously they know, deep down, the village supports them. But everybody wants to see it from the top. And you guys stopping in, giving me feedback for things that I can take back to them is huge. I can't speak highly enough about how great that is. And when I do send things out, it's very often that I get crickets back. So if you could, you see cars at the station, please stop. Stop in, say hi to the crews, see what's going on with them. Just make sure that they know that their voice is heard and that, you know, everybody from the top down is seeing what's going on in our department and in the community. That's all I got.
Aaron, I hope they understand that. I'm sure that's how we all feel. I mean, you know, those men and women in your department are the ones who are getting up in the middle of the night, going out and saving us and our families and our friends, right? And they're out there in the snow and putting themselves in danger while we're home in bed. So we do appreciate them, and I'd like to think we all show it, but maybe we could do a better job of showing it. So thank you for the heads up. All right, with that said, can I get a motion to go into executive session to discuss legal updates at 8:56?
So moved.
Moved by Steve, second.
Second.
Second by Jeff. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Going to executive session. We don't expect, right, to vote on anything after we come out. You're welcome to wait around outside if you want.